the little tunes going. Fantastic. Hello, lovely Aucademy people. Apologies for the delay, but we are here, and it's going to be interesting and fun, and hopefully breaking some myths about autistic people and our sense of humour, because I'm here.
Yes, we definitely plan on that.
So yeah, that's literally what we're talking about. So autistic people, humour and comedy with Duante, which I only learnt after I butchered your name several times on lives and recordings, to say that that's who I had on this week, and I was completely mispronouncing it. And then Si was like, I've told you 17 times, it's Duante. I was like, okay.
That's hilarious. I've had family members still mess up my name. I've had all kinds of people mess up my name. So yeah, that's actually going to be my first joke today. So we'll get there in a minute.
Oh, fantastic. Well, just first things first then. I'm trying to start a new thing, particularly for people who maybe can't see us that well, to actually describe what we look like. So I am Dr. Chloe Farahar. Hello, everybody. I am a white shaved-headed woman in, what am I wearing today? It's kind of got tigers and panthers on it, and green dress, giant glasses, and I'm sitting in my office. And I'm joined today by Duante, otherwise known as SuitMan. Are you okay to describe yourself for people? Is that all right?
Yeah, I'm a rather large mixed guy. I look like I could be Polynesian, Hawaiian, Mexican, Samoan, black. I look like any non-white big black guy. I'm light skinned, curly hair. I've got on a blue SuitMan shirt, which is the outline of my curly hair with my glasses and the suit and tie. And I'm at home in my personal, what do you call it? My personal studio. Yeah.
And I was loving like your accent. We don't have, sometimes we do have people with different accents and things on it, but yours is really quite nice to listen to. So yeah, nice and, it's actually quite stimmy. It's actually quite stimmy.
I don't know if we have an accent as far as it is. We're the most monotone. So we enunciate everything. So if you think about the English language from an American side, this is what you guys expect to hear when you get a voice recording. Owl. This is how you say owl.
Maybe I like it because, like I said, my best friend Annette Foster is originally from Seattle, and she's been here forever, and she still has her accent. So that's interesting. So maybe it's that.
To hear you say that to me, because to me you sound like a blue glasses girl and all the other Brits I said. Like to me, it's you sound. Yep, I know that accent. So if you tell me I'm taking the piss out of you, I'm getting used to a little bit of your guys's words, right? Isn't that what you say? And then the other one's for fuck's sake, right? And I'm deaf, so I mimic people pretty well, so I've got that down. Somebody was like, "You sound Scottish. You don't sound." I was like, "Well, I've been working with Jimmy a lot. You know what I mean? Jimmy's at Scotland, so it is what it is."
I mean, me and Si, we sound quite different. He's northern, but there is the autistic accent though, where you can't tell where the person's from. So I know a number of autistic people, they do not sound like the parts of the UK that they're actually from. So that's interesting. So let's start first things first. Kind of done it around the wrong way, but who are you and what is or are your dedicated interests?
So I'm SuitMan. I go by SuitMan Productions. I'm Duante Barnett. I started comedy. I'm almost on my third year. August 4th or August 5th is my comedy anniversary, and I'll be 3. So it's kind of a big deal. I produce shows in the States and online. I specialize in non-white cis male comedy shows. And what I mean by that is if you turn on the average TV for the last 100 years, you saw a white guy who was straight and usually right, you know what I mean, conservative. My comedy is the exact opposite of that. So, and the best part is we are home. I'm glad we did this from home, so I've got all my notes. But so here's a list of the shows I do and what they represent, so you can understand why I say that. So I do a show called Dating with Disabilities. Half the people are in UK, half the people are in US. Every member of the podcast has a disability, whether that be a physical or mental disability. And then some of us have both. I'm self-diagnosed Asperger's and partial deaf. Then I do the Autastic Artist podcast, which is the combination of Autistic and Fantastic is the title name, right? And we interview artists who are on the spectrum and talk about really their whole, like that's a gut wrenching show, I'm going to say, because there's a big difference when you talk to somebody about pre-diagnosis as opposed to post-diagnosis. And so depending on how long they've went without a diagnosis, the anger and frustration part of the interview may last longer than others when they've been diagnosed their whole lives, if that makes any sense. And so it's just a little bit, it's definitely something that's given me my drive to keep doing a lot of things. And then my big show that I did that was different was Deaf Comedy Jam. Americans, maybe even some UK comedy fans may have heard of that. It's DEAF. We translate comedy for deaf people. So it's something totally different. The focus is trying to get people who are CODs, partial deaf, or even hearing to perform for a deaf audience, because if all I could watch was black comedians, that wouldn't be right, correct? And so most all deaf people get to watch are other deaf comedians. That and I went through a whole fight with the deaf community. They're like, there's only one deaf person on I'm partial deaf, and then are you only supposed to watch deaf entertainment? Like, you can't want, like, come on now, like, think outside the box, right? You know what I mean? So it's trying to get people to think. And then when we talk about the shows, I've got Black and Proud, which is a Black and LGBTQ plus show. I do Mixed and Misidentified, the What Are You show. Every comedian's multiracial. I do Soul Sister Sundays, which is all black women lineup. I do Raw Comedy, which is Ridiculously Amazing Women. And I do put, and just to specify, I do put transgender women on these shows because they are women. So you're getting all forms of women when we do these shows, right? And then we've got Social Security influencers. I don't know if you know what Social Security is in the UK, but that's our old people insurance. So this is our retirement show. I do it on Saturdays at noon once a quarter. And
you
people laugh.
Super busy. Like,
yeah, I mean, you know, we try. That's like when you were like, can we reschedule? I was like, no.
when would you possibly have the time? And right. I did ask as well, like, do you consider, so you said, I mean, obviously you use the term Asperger's, we tend to just refer to everybody's autistic, but do you consider that you might also have attention differences? So what would be classed as ADHD?
You know, possibly. I'm not, you know, like, that's the difference, I guess, for autism in America versus autism in other countries. Is in America, autism is a white male disease and a white girl disease, not a person of color's disease. And so growing up, we did a whole panel of black autists with the ARC out of Seattle, and every black person had the same fucking story. It was scary. And it was weird, and it gave me goosebumps, and I didn't like it. And what I mean by that is that we were all intelligent for the most part. We were all getting sent out of class, quote unquote, boiler room kids, right? You don't get recess, you don't get these things. And like, there was no need for it. I was a very intelligent kid. I was smarter than my teachers most of my life, right? I went to 13 schools, graduated early. I've got a master's degree. Shit, I'm Rain Man. Give me two numbers. I can multiply them faster than anybody watching with a calculator, right? So there was this disconnect because my teachers were white. They didn't understand me. They didn't want to understand me, and you got shunned. Luckily, I was extremely intelligent, so they had to keep me in school. Just half the day, they'd send me to these programs with kids who were mostly white and mostly on IEPs and allowed to call the teacher bitches and shit because there's, you know, whatever their diagnosis was, right? And so there's a lot of a lot to be known, like especially in the Black community. We don't really respect being special, right? That kid's blessed, he's special, whatever. Get your ass up, you still my kid, you're gonna go to school, you're gonna figure this shit out. And so the tough love within the Black community really doesn't allow for there to be an identification of needing help or shit like that. And so if you're over 30, you didn't get diagnosed with Asperger's, ADHD, or any of that shit. You were behavioral disorder. You were getting kicked out of school, and the idea of the classroom to prison pipeline in America, where they were sending kids from, you know what I mean? Like, what, you're kicking a kid out for selling drugs. Well, now he can't get financial aid for college. So now, because in 8th grade he lives in a neighborhood where 80% of people sell drugs, he can never get financial aid for college. How does that help the kid?
We actually talked about this on the session with David Gray Hammond about autistic people and crime, either being as more likely to be victims and also more likely to be perpetrators, or not even perpetrators, just higher rates of autistic and people with attention differences in the prison system, for things that you wouldn't usually go to prison for, or at least not for long periods of time and stuff like that. So, and I think that's, I mean, that this has gone a bit more serious, but this,
I expected this to be fun. That's what everybody says.
I mean, it's all really important and fascinating as well, because like I said, that's not necessarily something I'd considered, which is that still the use of the word Asperger's potentially more so in the US because of it being seen as a white boy's disease, in quotation marks, to be autistic. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, it's something growing up that was more, you know, if you're over 25 and you're a minority, you didn't know what autism was.
Yeah.
You don't have a true understanding of it, right? And then the idea of Asperger's versus autism, I think there's an eliteness about it. Not something that I have, but I see where the eliteness is of Asperger's. I think is more of a social drain on you and a lack of social awareness, but you're still going to seem normal to a lot of, you're just weird, right? Whereas I think full autism can be more debilitating in a lot of ways. And so the whole line of high functioning versus low functioning and all these terms that I guess in America we use and you guys don't use anymore. Like I got in trouble for saying handicap the other day. I was, what? They're like, that's a bad word.
Yeah, disabled's fine. Yeah, but handicapped is not.
Yeah. In the United States, we use both. You still get a handicap placard for parking or disabled parking, however you want to say it, right? And these aren't words I'm saying to trigger anybody or offend anybody. It's just the difference between color and color, right? It's we speak the same language, but we do not speak the same language.
And well, I mean, like say the use of like say functioning language, and I mean, because you in the US you will be using the same manual that we do, which is the American manual. We do have the European manual as well, but both Asperger's have been removed. So I was diagnosed autistic, and functioning language and labels never existed in the manuals in the way that it's used. So yeah, it's quite interesting that it still gets used when it shouldn't, basically.
And that's the whole I've had that argument about like certain things like autism awareness versus autism acceptance. Like there's and I guess this is the biggest message I want to put out there to people when they hear me talk and they want to disagree with what I'm saying. We're all allies. Don't let this term or a different word, like I really get pissed off because I do a lot of podcasts. And I had one person message me and another person message me. And I was like, fuck, I just copied this from the person's show I'm doing in Kuala Lumpur. They called it autism awareness. Sorry, I didn't say autism acceptance. Really, I don't fucking care either way at this point. I'm just trying to get people to understand we're doing something. You know what I mean? Like, so I guess and I hate to say this to you, but as a black person, there's so many things we see white people nitpick at, right? Like when we talk about like black civil rights and the wrong words and all this, and it's like, we're fucking marching, just march. Okay. If you're going to be on the side of the fight, just march. And so that's my attitude with a lot of these things when people get so much caught up in the labels instead of the message somebody's trying to give, is that if the message is in the right place, maybe have a side conversation with them, maybe talk about it later, but we don't need to talk about it in the middle of their interview or the middle of their speech or in the middle of whatever about how they said handicapped versus disabled. Maybe just pull them aside later and go, hey, that's a word we don't use. And here's why. And then you might hear, well, in our country, we still use that word. It's not a big deal. And then there's also the idea that, hey, man, if all you heard was me say the H word and I said about 1 million of them, are you even fucking listening to what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So
are you listening to the rest of the message?
Yeah.
Basically? Yeah.
Are you even getting anything? And that's the part. And I know with us neurodivergents, that can be hard. But that's what we got to work on. We're all in the same family. We're all trying to come together. I had somebody ask me what was the goal of what I was doing. And I was like, I'm trying to become the Black voice of autism and become the person that challenges people to, hey, dude, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, and I haven't seen one. I haven't seen a book. You know what I mean? Like, this is really not a minority understood or a minority focused campaign. You know what I mean? Like, just we don't have a voice in this, and so that's what's driven me, kind of.
And I think there's some of that. I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, actually, another advocate, about like for Aucademy as well here, not wanting to be tokenistic and literally just bringing on people, but wanting to represent the diversity of our community, but not in a tokenistic way. So like, hoping that Black autistics or autistic people of color and so on would be interested in coming on and discussing whatever is important and an important topic, without it being, like you say, tokenistic and stuff, so that we can all come together.
Exactly. And that's hard. It's hard when you're breaking the ground. It's hard when you're expanding. And if you're doing it and booking us, then you shouldn't be the one that feels bad.
But it is hard though, because I feel like what you just said, that where do we find those individuals? And again, without being tokenistic, that's always my worry as well. I don't want it to be that way. So I'm kind of glad when Si was like, we've got this amazing autistic comedian, can we invite them on? I was like, yeah, that sounds great.
The best part for you now is me and I know like 7 of us. So and I'm building a group of POC artists, right? I think that's my next goal, right? And so that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm championing right now, is really knowing who's autistic and Black, who's autistic and Asian, who's a minority who's autistic, so we can talk about these things. Because I'm finding most of us, like Rachel Dunbar of Brooklyn, New York, or I should say Boston, Massachusetts, she does a whole set about how her foster mother didn't tell her till she was 30 that she was autistic. And like that really fucked with her. And obviously it fucks with her now, right? And I can see why, but that would really, you know what I mean? Like, how do you not tell your child? How do you not?
And I've had some students that I support in my numerous hats. We had 2 students from India, and one of them, was working out, could they go through an assessment and all this kind of thing. That's why they were coming to us, to work out if they were autistic and to then hopefully go for an assessment. Went back to their family to let them know they were looking for assessment, and the family said, we had you diagnosed when you were a child, we just never told you. And she was so angry because it hid so much of that chance to understand herself and connect to other autistic people. And so she was just really angry and hurt, because she was like,
I feel similar. So like I went to 11 different schools, and I remember my dad slipping up and telling me I went to the R-word school at John Rogers, and how I was in special ed, and I almost, if I didn't get my shit together, this, that, and the other. They never told me I was diagnosed with anything, though. Do you get what I mean? I never was told this was why I was the way I was, or this is why I was talking shit to teachers in the 2nd grade and telling them they're stupid and how they messed up. And, it was watching the show Big Bang. Have you ever watched that? I am a Black Sheldon. And they don't say...
I'm the female version.
They don't... Do we just become best friends?
I know. I've literally been accused of being the female version of Sheldon a few years back. I like Sheldon. He's the only nice character on there.
No, for me, it's not I'm still an athlete. Like I make a joke about being a jock nerd, so I'm half nerd, half jock. So I'm still athletic and I'm huge. So there are some parts of Sheldon that don't come out. But as far as my silver tongue and my talking shit and my logical, my new joke I'm trying to write is, and this won't ruin my set, so I'll just tell it. I was riding with my buddy on a road trip to Boise, and he had asked me what autism was like and being Asperger's, and I couldn't explain it to him. And then we drove past the license plate, and it had alpha numeric options with only 4 options. And I said to him, that's a little under 1.69 million options for that license plate. And he says, what? I said, yeah, because there's 10 numeric and 26 alpha, which is 36, and 36 squared is 1216 or 1296, and 1296 squared is a little bit under 1.69 million. And he's just like, okay. And everybody followed at home. That's the math. I'm not lying to you. You know what I mean? So it's a little under 1.69 million. And he just looked at me like, are you fucking like kidding me? And no, I do this all the fucking time. While I'm driving, I calculate what speed I want to go so I can know what time I'm getting there on long road trips. Math is good for a lot of fucking things. If you drive 85 miles an hour instead of 60 miles an hour, you'll get there 40% faster, which is a third of your time. So when you're doing a 12-hour trip, that saves me 4 hours of driving by going 85 instead of 60.
And I'm terrible at maths, just to show the diversity of our community.
Yeah, I'm a human calculator. And so it's just different. People really don't grasp like the social issues we have. It's not always what we appear, because I've been masking and coding my life. And that's another part that we don't talk about, especially being mixed. That's the crazy one, is because not only are you masking your skills, but you're coding depending on where you go. Should I be blacker? Should I be whiter? Should I do this? And then I'm also trying not to be this, because I describe it as I'm an anorexic white girl on the inside. That's my emotional state. I just look like this on the outside, right? But on the inside, I'm like, oh my God, is she going to call me? Oh my God, I ate 2 muffins. I shouldn't have had 2 muffins. You know what I mean? Like and then like when people do shit I can't explain, it drives me nuts. And when people hate or do shit to piss you off or fuck with you, like I really, what's the word? Obsess over it for a while. I just can't get over it. And I'm really not good at talking to women like Raj. I really don't know how to walk up to a girl and be, hey, you're cute. What's your number? Like, what's up? No, that is not happening at all. Right? So there's a ton of
at
things.
least make an attempt, and then it's just really, really bad. Because that's what I would be like. I would be just really terrible. And I would like, because I was on Tinder for about 3 months, probably not even that, a few years back, and that was it for Tinder. But I wouldn't wait for like the guy to message me. I would message them, but I would message them like not hello or how you doing. I would message if you were shrunk to the size of a Lego person and placed in an inoperable blender, how would you get out? Like, I wanted to know, right? If they came back with something really boring or just really obvious or confusion, I'd be like, yeah, we're not gonna gel. There's not gonna be no interest if you can't answer this question in an interesting way.
That's hilarious.
I had game. It was great.
That is hilarious. I need, so you know what's funny is I see the comments. Asher Gilbert said, I thought I was the only one who did that.
Yep, when driving.
Yeah, calculating, and it's like no. And then we talked about some of the other things, like I guess people who are autistic have affinity for dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs. I wanted to be a dinosaur. I can tell you about all the dinosaurs. You know what I mean? And my kids are the same way. Like I can tell Kalia May is autistic. She's just like me. She's a ball of energy. She doesn't want to hear no. She's always like wanting to challenge. Like, why not? Why can't I do that? Like, why? And like there's an article that talks about how there's a higher level of people who are trans and LGBTQ because they're on the spectrum. And to me, it logically makes sense. And I want people to hear me when I say this. I have a pretty good way of noticing without knowing when other people are special. And somebody said, well, why is that? And I said, because I feel like I notice when people are acting logical instead of social. And so if you're acting logically instead of socially, if you really like somebody and want to spend time with them, well, that would mean you're attracted to them. So it only logically makes sense that people within our community are more open to having different types of lifestyles than those who are socially influenced on their day-to-day decisions. Now, you may look at me and be like, you wear nothing but Nike. That's not a social influence. That's a manifestation of being poor, not being able to own Nikes as a kid, right? I go by SuitMan. I can show you on my camera. I've got like 60 different shirts and 140 different ties. Also, I grew up with suits and shit that didn't fit when I went to church for church choir, and they'd buy me one suit, the church would, each year, and I was outgrowing it too fast because I've been this height since I was fucking 11, right? So there's a lot of trauma, especially when you're NDs, that turns you into having these ways of doing things or these patterns. And like when people really get to see me and come see me on my own, you are fucking weird. When I'm just sitting by myself, now when I'm outside and I'm SuitMan, I've got this mask on, and you know what I mean? I'm not talking about shit like this. Everybody's like, oh, he's normal. He's all right. And then they get a little around me, and it's not so much like, I like to call them normies. Like I've got a derogatory, oh, you're a normie, huh? What? Yeah, gotcha, bitch. You didn't like that, huh? But I call them normies. That way we can fight back, right? But it's just, I feel it's just different. You know what I mean?
I was just very confused by the banner that Si's put up. Just Si saying he's only attracted to my cooking. Thanks.
Hey, it's better than saying you're not attracted to it, right?
But we've completely gone around in, I don't even know where we are. Where are we? Right. So we've done so when did you discover you were autistic? So you've kind of just talked about, okay, so your family knew that you were different and what have you, but when did you must have known you were different, but when did you work it out that, I'm autistic?
So earlier this year, Audra Cisak, she works within the community. She's I don't know all her damn, I could look it up. She's got all these acronyms for what she is. That's the best answer I got for you right now. But she's got all these acronyms for what she does. And she works within the community. And I remember before I left, got divorced, she had asked me to come be an advocate for something. I didn't get quite what she was asking me or why she asked me. I'm just a good person. So I said, yeah, I'll be there. If you need my help, I'll be there, right? And then I didn't understand why she was asking me. I really didn't get it, but I've known her since high school. You need my help. Maybe you just feel like they're talking to you a certain way. I'm a big black guy that can definitely make people feel safer when I'm sitting next to them. Like, you're not going to intimidate me with him sitting here. Ah! Right? And so I didn't quite understand why. And then we got to actually starting to do our podcast, Autastic Artists. And she asked me to give her a call. We'd do a Zoom meeting about doing, because she wanted to do a podcast. And I said, okay. And that doesn't work for me. I need more information than that, right? So I was like, what do you want to do? And what is your ideas? And she kind of gave them to me. And I was like, okay, why don't we interview people? And then we fast forward and we get my other co-host, Jane Giro, who's my artist, on the show. And she's sitting there, and Jane's like, yeah, I'm autistic. And I was, oh, Jane, I knew you were different. I mean, I felt like we had a bond. And then Audra goes, well, Dante's autistic too. And it's, what? Huh? What the fuck you mean? You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm not. Who said that? Who told you that secret? And she's, well, we went to high school together. I thought you knew that. I mean, you've always been like that. Huh? What'd you say to me? And then you start thinking about all these memories. And I think I used to go to portable classes for like 3 out of 4 years of elementary school, but I had good grades, so I wasn't being held back. I can remember being around a ton of white kids who were definitely on the spectrum, thinking back about them, right? But I just wasn't ever told, or, you know what I mean? And then the other part was, I'm 6 foot. I've been 6 foot since I was like 11. So I don't know if they wanted me to, like, I could have turned into a very angry kid if I was not, you know what I mean? And so I don't think they wanted to tell me I was a little different. So I've been self-diagnosed for the last about year. But I did an interview with the ARC out here, which is the Autism Resource Center of King County. And within 5 minutes of the interview, the guy was like, "Yeah, you're good. Can we put you on a one of our panels?" Sure. All right. I haven't told you all my story yet. We'll listen to the rest of your story, but you're good. And I says, "Oh, okay." I didn't know if that was a good thing or an insult. You know what I mean? Like, I sounded special already after 5 minutes. You couldn't listen to everything I said before you made that decision, you asshole. Fine. All right.
Like, but we can pick each other out as well. Like, I do like that. Basically, it sounds like people around you were like, "Yeah, he's autistic. How's he not know?" That's like our Tigger, who only realised he was autistic last year, and he's in his 50s, and he'd been working with autistic people for years, and he only twigged last year. And I was like, everyone around him knew. They thought he knew, but he hadn't worked it out.
And that's what I went through.
So I've got my little tiny thing about what we're hoping to talk about after a set from you. So I'm going to kind of disappear if you need me on the screen, if that's helpful. But my face doesn't convey emotion much. So I don't know if that will actually just distract you more. So before you do your set, I've got basically what we're hoping we would like to discuss as well today is the myth that autistic people have no sense of humor. Now, I know I'm hilarious. So that's just needs to be in the is there difference? And I think there is in our humor. So, for instance, I've seen autistic performers whose material was definitely for like a neurotypical audience and really didn't work for an autistic audience when they tried it. Like, they were so used to doing the what you would class as the normies circuit, right? And their jokes were not made. It was an autistic person making jokes for a neurotypical audience. And when they came to an arts festival, an autistic arts festival, it kind of fell flat. Like, the autistic people, we felt uncomfortable. We were like, this isn't as funny as you think it is. And then I've seen performers whose material was not trying to be like neuronormative or, like you say, for normies. So autistic people connected with it better. Like, they found it funny and they liked the logic in the jokes as well and all that kind of stuff. Right. So that I do think we do have a different sense of humor. And I think that's quite an interesting thing that maybe we can like try and pick apart. But if you're happy and ready to go, I will disappear.
All right, let's do this.
Is that all right? Do you want me to stay on the screen, or are you okay without me?
You're fine. I can go. I'm pretty good at just talking. You know, it's my black kicks in. I just start running my mouth. We'll be all right.
Okay. Take it away.
So, my name's Duante. It's spelled all fucked up though. It's Duante. So I get everything from Duante to Duante. I even get Dwayne every once in a while, like the T silent and shit. The worst part for me, though, is when I go to a new job or the doctor's office, people really have the balls to ask me if I spell my name right. Yeah, like I didn't graduate kindergarten and shit, but I figured out my name's too ethnic for my resume. I've got a master's degree, and the only calls I get for jobs are like liquor store manager, garbage man, shit like that. So I decided to go by my middle name, right? It's Edward. Yeah, the calls got way better. I got calls for like management, IT, financials. But there's one problem. We get to the interview, and they're looking for an Edward. And they got a Dante, if you know what I'm saying. And even worse than that, like, I'm pretty sure a lot of white people think, you know, minorities are the only ones with messed up names. That's not true. I went to the doctor's office. I read the girl's name tag. It was Ganell. So I told her, that's a beautiful way to spell Janelle. She was like, no, sir. My name's Ganell. Yeah, like a lot of you out there. I was like, so anal with a G? And she's like, no, that's inappropriate. And I was like, bitch, I'm just trying to remember your name. Shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, God. But being mixed is weird because, like, people mistake my culture. Like last week, I had a lady come up to me and go, aren't you one of those Samoas? And I was like, no, ma'am. I'm not a Girl Scout cookie. And if I am a cultural cookie, I'm actually a Oreo. Get it right. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, it would be a double stuff Oreo these days, thanks to COVID. But the other hard part about being mixed is, like, you know, people don't always know who you are or what you are. And, like, I had a Mexican person come up to me speaking Spanish. And I was like, I ain't no Mexican. Everybody's like, that's racist. And no, it's not. Because when I told them I was black, they didn't want to talk to me anyway. So you tell me who's the real racist. Shit. And then, like, I try to fight stereotypes. I actually used to be an IT teacher, but I don't quite fit the description. So, like, my first week of class, my white students would heckle me. They'd say stuff like, you know, the floor's been swept, the garbage has been taken out. But don't worry, I found a way to get back at them. Since I have a master's degree, I tell all my white students to call me master. Yeah, that's your Black History joke of the month. A little late, just like us. And if there's any white people out there that are like, I didn't like that joke, it's unsavory. Well, let me give you a history lesson. We didn't like it either. And if you can't tell by now, I'm not really made for an office job. Yeah. Everybody in Seattle's all like passive aggressive, and I'm more like aggressive. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to do a subliminal Facebook post or anything like that or email the boss. I'll just catch you by the Keurig and punch you in the throat. And even worse than that, like working an office job, you always get a project with somebody you hate. And one time I got a project with Bob. Bob's a racist. Bob hates me. I hate him. Somebody was like, well, what are you going to do about that project? I was like, I'm not doing shit. And they're like, well, aren't you worried about getting fired? I was like, no, I'm the affirmative action hire. Bob better figure that shit out. Shit. That might be part of why Bob's mad, right? Totally different qualifications, but same pay. Fuck Bob. But the other bad part about having an office job is, like, we always do a potluck. And I hate that shit because I always got white coworkers who want to make ethnic dishes for me. And I'm like, I don't do that shit to you guys. I don't bring green bean casserole or stovetop stuffing to the event. You know what I mean? But the worst part is, like, the day of, Sarah will come up to me and she'll be like, you gotta try these greens. Yeah, I bet you they're better than your mom's. And I'm like, bitch, that's disrespectful. Yeah, my mom's white. And for those of you not laughing, white guys didn't start dating black women until after Michelle Obama. That's when they seemed friendlier for some reason. I don't know. But it was weird because, like, at my last job, instead of joining like the old man gang of the office, you know, the old guys group, usually they're old white guys. They take the company credit card, go get drinks, and they're sexist, racist, all that. My last job, I decided to join lady gang of the office, hang out with the ladies. And so Kelly comes up to me and she's like, next week's pledge week. It's pledge week? I was in a frat. Let's fucking do this. You know what I mean? So I come in Monday and she's like, grab your Starbucks cup, bitch. Meet me at the car. I was like, okay. We get there. She's like, it's Mimosa Monday, champagne and orange juice, bitches. Now, I don't really drink, you know what I'm saying? So I come in Tuesday and I'm hungover. I really can't get going. And I look at her and I was like, I can't do this again. And she's like, don't worry. Meet my friend Jose. It's Tequila Tuesday, sucker. So now I'm hungover, I'm drunk, I'm in the routine. So we come in Wednesday and I'm all pumped up and I go, what is it? White girl wasted Wednesdays? And they go, no. Our body's a temple. We drink water on Wednesdays. So I come in Thursday, I'm like, well, we got to get back to it. We're probably drinking again. What is it? Thirsty Thursdays? And she goes, no, dummy. It's almost the end of the week. We got to get some work done. But don't worry. Tomorrow's Friday. Yay! Fireball, bitches. Let's go. So I finally made it through Pledge Week, right? Now I feel like I got to represent. So I come in the office on Monday. I see the boss, Bob. He walks by and I give him a big old slap on the ass. And Bob looks at me and goes, that's inappropriate. I go, oh, I know, Bob. But you did that to Helen last week. And I'm part of Lady Gang now. So if you fuck with them, you fuck with me. Lady Gang, bitches! Yeah. The guys at the office don't like me. But for whatever reason, the white elephant's been a whole lot more intriguing. I get candles and incense and shit. It's fucking awesome. If you can join Lady Gang, I definitely recommend it. You know what I mean? But it's weird because I'm actually a jock nerd. I know a lot of you probably don't know what that means. That means in high school, not only was I the football captain, but I was also a peer mediator. Yeah, so that means in high school, after I bullied you for your lunch money, we had to have a talk about why you didn't bring me enough. And worse than that, like I went to an all-white high school, and the senior celebrity I won was Biggest Brown Noser. So I don't know if they were just mocking me or just blatantly fucking racist. You know what I'm saying? And I'm from West Seattle. I'm pretty sure a lot of you don't know this, but that's actually a Crip neighborhood. And I like to keep it gangster in everything I do, but I'm also a nerd. So when I play Magic the Gathering, I only play with a blue deck. Yeah, BK all day, bitches. Fuck your goblins, fuck your dwarves. It's all about water elements and air elementals. And the funny part is I had a Mexican friend who loved playing Magic too. And I couldn't figure out why. And he told me he had a green deck. And I was still perplexed. And he said that way he had a green card wherever he went. I was like, God damn it, you sneaky son of a bitch. But it's funny for me, like I think about things and like I'm getting older now. And it was weird because I remember Chloe was talking about being on Tinder. And I recently divorced and I tried to get on Tinder and I put on there how I like to listen to oldies and I play cribbage and I play pinochle and I was getting all these matches and these women were trying to hook me up with their grandmas. And this is fucked up. But then I thought about it. I was like, this might not work out. You know, one big bang, one big check. Checking out grandma and not checking her back in. You know what I'm saying? Got to make this money somehow. But it's funny because that had me thinking about the term cougar. Because cougars usually apply to old white women, right? And so I thought about it, I was like, why don't we give a term to all the women's, right? So I was like, we can call old black women, we can call them pumas. East Indian women, we can call them Bengal tigers. And Asian women, we'll just call them snow leopards, right? Whole geographical lesson on the feline families. But the funny part for me is I didn't want to be sexist, right? So I asked them a question. I was like, what do you call old black guys? They're like, that's simple. We call them sugar daddies. I was like, oh, I've heard of that before. I was like, okay, well, what do you call old white guys? She was like, well, we call them Hollywood directors. Like, whoa, right? So then I was like, well, what do you call old mixed guys? Because I'm mixed. And she was like, that's simple. We call you guys circus lions. Like, circus lions? She was like, yeah, If you can't tell, you got a Baldwin mane. You only know a trick or two and your ball sag. And I was like, fuck you, give me my drink back. Get the hell out of here. You know what I mean? But it's different. I watched that Black Panther movie, right? And I was so proud of us finally having a black superhero. And then I was like, well, what if all superheroes were black, right? Like, think about it. What if Aquaman was black, right? Like, he wouldn't even be Aquaman no more. Because we know black people don't swim. He just be yells from the beach man. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of it, we don't save white people anyway. So he'd just be standing there like, you should have read the sign. I can't even read. It's a pictograph. It says shark. You should have read the sign. And I thought about, like, what if the Incredible Hulk was black? He wouldn't even be Bruce Banner anymore. Like, he'd be pissed off every day. He'd be fucking so frustrated with racism that he'd just be losing his Hulk smash. Fuck this job application. Hulk smash. Right? Like, this white lady just walked by. I walked by her car, she locked the doors. Hulk smash. Like, he wouldn't even be Bruce Banner. And then I thought about the Flash. What if the Flash was black? He wouldn't be the Flash either. He'd just be some nigga named Tyrone from Compton. And not only that, but all the racist white people would be like, I told you those black people were fast. They've got that extra twitch muscle. This proves it. And for the American football fans, Mel Kiper have him going first round in the NFL draft to the Raiders every year. You know what I mean? And then I thought about, like, what if Wonder Woman was black? Like, she wouldn't have the lasso of truth anymore. Probably be the double dutch of truth. Right? And we know white people don't know how to jump rope. So you guys be fucked. Wonder Woman get there and you'd be like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'll just tell you the truth. Fuck it, right? But it's funny, like, I don't know. It's different. I remember when I was first a single parent, right? Because I've got 4 daughters. And daughters are great, but, like, they say the damnedest things. You know what I mean? Like, I remember my 3-year-old comes out one day, and she had just got done with her fucking bath, and she comes out and goes, Daddy, I got your favorite color panties on. I was like, no, that's not how you tell me. You know my favorite color's purple. Don't do that again. You know what I'm saying? Like, no. And even worse than that, like, I had to go shopping for her one time. And I'm at the store and I'm walking around and I'm like, looking. And I'm walking around and I'm looking. And finally the person comes up to me and goes, Sir, can I help you? And I said, yeah. I didn't know how to say it, but I was like, I'm looking for little girl panties. And she goes, Sir! And I go, no, I got a daughter. I'm like, there's a picture right here. Look. Then I looked at her. I was like, hey, just so you know, this isn't to catch a predator. And even if it was, they don't like them new. They like them used, right? Like, shit. I know that's a dark joke. It's okay. I'll give you a second. And then it's even funnier because, like, I forgot a whole good part of my joke. I remember I was a pretty good college teacher. Oh, shit. I'll go back. So my same daughter, we got a little bit older. And I went to the same Target, and I'm walking around. The guy comes up with me attitude again because he didn't like how our interaction went last time. And he goes, how can I help you today, sir? I was like, it's simple. My daughter hit puberty. I'm looking for some pads. And she goes, He goes, that's easy too. Same house condoms. I was like, fucker, I got 5 kids. I don't know where those are at either. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't the Where's Waldo of contraceptive. Just tell me what fucking aisle. You know what I'm saying? Like, shit. And then I'll go back to this one. I was a pretty good college teacher. And I remember people used to always ask me, like, why don't you teach, like, high school or middle school or elementary school? And I was like, there's one reason. Yeah, it's quite simple. I like to fuck my students, and that's kind of frowned upon at those other institutions. You know what I mean? Like, shit. And everybody always gets mad, and I'm like, look, they're community college students. They need extra credit to graduate. Fuck you guys. Don't yell at me. You know what I'm saying? Like, shit. But it's funny because, like, I go by SuitMan Productions, and a lot of people go, well, what kind of shows you do? And I do a show called Def Comedy Jam. And a lot of people always go, I've heard of that. And I'm like, no, you haven't. It's DEAF. We translate comedy for deaf people. Everybody always gets a little chuckle about that. And the worst part is I got trolled by the deaf community about this, right? Because people always got to complain about what you're doing. I don't care what it is, right? And so the one guy was like, he's not even deaf. And I was like, I'm hearing impaired. And then they're like, that's a bad word. And I was like, that's not a bad word. You know what I mean? And then, like, I'm mixed anyways. And I started getting all pissed off and feeling some sort of way. And I was like, I've spent my whole life proving to people how black I am. I'm definitely not going to prove to you how fucking deaf I am. You know what I mean? Like, fuck you guys. And then this year, I'd self-diagnosed as Asperger's, which is autistic. And somebody was telling me, oh, so you're autistic? I said, yeah, you could say I'm retarded. And I'm like, you can't say retarded. And I was like, well, if I could say nigga, guess what? I could say retarded. Like, you're not taking that one from me either. You know what I'm saying? Fuck you, Karen. Jesus. And then in Seattle, I noticed something new. There's this Seattle drop-in dodgeball game. And it's the craziest thing because you've got hundreds of white kids just showing up to play dodgeball. And somebody was like, are you going to play? And I was like, on the inside, there's this black, you know what I mean, Mandingo warrior that just wants to play and just hammer every Karen I see. You know what I mean? Like, this is for saying I make you feel scared. This is for saying I'm intimidating, right? This is for asking to talk to my manager. And the whole time, I'm really just playing a good game of dodgeball. Everybody's looking at me like, I don't want to play dodgeball with him, right? But it's funny to me, like, I was married for like 10 years. And I know you guys can't clap it up, but I'm pretty sure a lot of you out there have been in a long-term relationship, right? And I feel like in that first year or two of that long-term relationship, that's when you do your sexual interview, right? Like, you find out what she likes. She finds out what you like. You set some boundaries, right? So when on year 9, my wife started sucking my balls out the blue, I had a couple questions. Like, are you cheating on me? Like, are you reading again? Like, I don't even like this. Like, pineapple. Like, fuck. And then my ego kicked in. I was like, I've been married to a ball sucker this whole time. And then I play football, and I thought about it, and I was like, I know that smell. You smell like Tyrone. Next game, I was under center, talking shit to Tyrone, talking about blue 42. Take them kids in and move me in with you. Green 45. Your ass is lucky to be alive. But it's weird. Like, I had that usual mother-in-law, son-in-law relationship. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Like where she hates you and you hate her. But I found a common ground with mine. She likes spirit animals. So I told her she's the new one, right? It's a hybrid. Part cheetah, part puma. Yeah, I told her she's a puta. I know somebody out there's got to speak Spanish, right? But it's funny to me, like, there's certain things that, like, I don't know, like, you get older and things aren't the same. Like, I was at the doctor's office and I was complaining about taking 4 shots last month, right? And out of nowhere, the millennials like, 4 shots ain't shit, bitch. I take 4 shots an hour. And I was like, that's cool and all, but mine were cortisone, motherfucker. Like, I'm not over here trying to get loaded. I'm just over here trying to lubricate these joints. You know what I'm saying? And then the worst part for me is, like, I don't even understand the fucking acronyms anymore. Like, somebody was like, do you have friends with benefits? And I was like, all my friends have benefits. Like, I'm 40 fucking years old. All my friends are with benefits. If my friends don't have life insurance, health insurance, and dental insurance, they're fucking responsible. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of people am I hanging out with if they don't have benefits? And they're like, oh, God, you don't get it. And then the funnier one was, like, in the comedy scene out here in Seattle, somebody was complaining about all these social justice warriors, all these SJWs. Sorry, I fucked up the joke. All these SJWs fucking up things. And my mind went to single Jewish women. I was like, I love single Jewish women. How could they be fucking up things? Can we get more of them? Then somebody was like, no, social justice warriors. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm black. I'll take a couple more of those too. What the fuck are you complaining about? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So I've thought about making up some of my own acronyms, but I was told they were too mean. Like, when young people ask a question, right? Just tell them you're too young to know the answer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I turn into what's his face from A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm just mad that they have the answer to every question in their fucking phone. Does anybody else remember Encyclopedia Britannica? You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know shit about Q's and Z's because we weren't buying the whole fucking anthology in 47 fucking editions. I don't know. But I guess we'll end on this. We've almost hit. Oh, fuck. That's 25 minutes. Jesus Christ. We'll end on this. Before I came on here today, I told this girl I was doing a comedy set. And she was like, I hope your set goes like your sex life. And I was like, what? And she was like, I hope you can last 30 minutes and everybody's laughing at you by the time you're done. I do have one last joke I want to do, and I'll end it on this one. I've been feeling really sad for American Republicans. And it's not because Trump lost the election. It's because most of those people are good Christians and they believe in God. And I'm trying to figure out what they're going to do when they get to heaven and they find out God's black. Like, how is that conversation going to go? Are they going to be like, I didn't use the hard R, I promise you? Or are they going to be like, you know, I donated to 4 NAACP campaigns? And then the cherry on top, they're going to be like, I've got 5 black friends. And finally, God's going to be fed up with all the shit and be like, no, you've got 5 neighbors. Go to hell. Anyways, thank you for having me. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully, Chloe will be coming back any minute. There she is. She's got to unmute herself.
I have.
Oh.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I was just thinking, I played Blue for Magic the Gathering as well. It's blue. It has to be blue.
It has to be blue.
Yeah. And yeah, I also had a strange, my actual birth name, which nobody could pronounce. And I changed it when I was 15 and then legally when I was in my 30s. Names are difficult. Yeah. I've got so many questions for you.
Especially after that set. That one, yeah, my set goes everywhere, doesn't it?
Well, no, but I mean specifically as well, because I asked a number of our modmins if they had any particular questions they would like to ask an autistic comedian. I mean, one of them is just like the practicalities of like, how did you get your start? So you said 3 years ago.
So 4 years ago, my mom died. And when that happened, it broke me in a lot of different ways. And I ended up getting divorced a year later. And before I got divorced and thrown out my home, I tried my first comedy set. And 2 weeks after that, I got thrown out my home. I was living out my car. So I did comedy every day for about 6 weeks straight. I was homeless, showering at 24-hour fitness, sleeping in my car, eating, like I talked to somebody about how much the pandemic affected people. I'll sidebar on this because I grew up homeless. I do shows for the homeless organizations out here. And if you didn't have an app, you can't eat. And if you can't eat at a store, how much did that affect the homeless community? And when I was homeless for those 6 weeks, if it wasn't for the dollar burger I could get on the McDonald's app and getting all this free shit, there was no way I would have been able to get through that. So comedy kind of like was my thing. I was eating fast food and doing comedy 3 to 4 different places a night, and then going to the gym and taking a shower, and then going to the laundromat once a week and washing the 3 outfits I had. And then, like, for me, a lot of people ask or say or feel like I'm more seasoned than 3 years, right? And a lot of that is because I've done so many different places for comedy that you can't keep up. When you've done, I think I probably performed in 300 different places, probably 200 to 300 different places. That's a lot of different feedback. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody probably found all my jokes funny. Not everybody thought they were all funny. There's some people who, after 2 jokes, were like, yeah, I don't like this guy, right? But you get a better thermometer or middle ground on what people think and what people really consume and what they like when you go to a whole bunch of different places.
And I think only some of the difficulty I would have had is I don't get all the references, because if there's a few that are like American references and stuff, so that's not even on the comedy. That's just
get your shit together.
So that's your start. But I mean, the person who was asking that question is also interested in, like, did you get a manager or an agent? Have you just done it all yourself?
SuitMan Productions is all me. I've done nothing but put myself into my brand, believe in myself, and kind of bet on myself. There's so much social media out here now that you can do a lot of these things you can't do before. Now, have I made it to the big money and have I become a national star? Not yet. Have I? But for what I've done in 3 years, and I guess that's where I'd have to change this conversation, is I'm not so much big news because of what I do comedy wise. I'm big news because of what I do production wise. And so I produce all these different events and all these different shows, and my creativity there alone has made my comedy that much more stronger, because other people want me to produce shows. Other people want me around. I am the token white, the token minority. I'm special needs. I'm deaf. I'm black. I check a lot of boxes, you know what I mean? So I'm able to get out there. And then the biggest thing is I didn't. A lot of people in comedy will do their same. Every Monday they go to this local club they like. I've went to almost every mic in this state at least once. So everybody in this state who does comedy, for the most part, has had a chance to see me, has rubbed elbows with me. Usually I'm in suit and tie, so they've got some sort of an opinion on me. You know what I mean? Like they've figured it out.
I mean, the next one, I don't know if this kind of question is one that you would enjoy or one that would annoy you. I don't know. It's what or who influences your comedy?
My life.
I did feel that as well anyway from the
my
stories.
Whole set, yeah, the whole set is shit that has happened to me. There isn't a single joke that isn't somewhat real. Like literally, there isn't a single joke that I write that isn't somewhat real. Now, some of the puns, like the "I hope your sex and your sex life," that's a pun. Calling my mother-in-law puta, I've done that. No, it's not a joke, right? That's really real. No, but as far as some of the other stories, like, yeah, I won biggest brown noser at Highline High School. We were a majority white school. People assumed that I had to kiss ass to get good grades. Not true at all. I was just very smart. So there is a racist undertone to me getting that, right? My name's Duante. I get Duante, Dwayne. I think you admitted you've called me all of those before, so I corrected you, right? So, right, there's no And I think that's where your most successful comedians and your most, because this is what I've been told by most people, is your most successful comedians are the ones that are able to be authentic. And I can make jokes about my Mexican friend or my Asian friend or all these different things because it's a friend. It's we, not them. And I think like for a lot of Caucasian comedians, especially males, they don't understand that it's a we thing, not them thing.
That's interesting as well, in and of itself.
I got my whole lady gang joke is really making fun of women drinking on the job. But I've never had a woman get offended because I'm pledging lady gang, right? And then I sexually assault the boss on the way out. So now they're like, fuck yeah, we love you. You're our hero, right? So there's a lot of, and then like we talked about the depth of writing. My whole Def Comedy Jam to the use of the R word joke, that's a triple I'm tripling down. I'm mixed disabled, I'm mixed hearing, and I'm mixed mentally disabled, right? So I'm mixed no matter how you want to look at it, right? And so when I talked to another comedian about it, he's like, oh, so you're taking back your slur. And that is the whole point of the joke. Yes, you finally got it. I'm sorry I had to do a TED talk on this joke for you to fucking get it. But those are the things that like, or like the idea of gainal. So you're saying anal with a G. Well, bitch, I'm just trying to remember your name. Do you know how many people have said that shit to me? Dwayne, Duante, or like probably your past name before you changed it to Chloe. Well, I'm just trying to remember your name. Well, stop trying to remember it your way and remember it my way. And the best is one was when a black person saw me after doing the Gainal joke, was like, oh, I loved how you said that to that white bitch. And I was like, actually, I didn't get to say that to her. I thought it, but it sounds good. The true story is I was married at the time and we were at a prenatal appointment for the baby. And I came out and I said, oh, GA, that's a beautiful way to spell Janelle. And she said, no, my name's Gainal. And I started laughing. And before I could say anything, my ex-wife pinched me and told me to go sit down.
She knew where that was going.
Mm-hmm.
You just said as well about the like having to do a TED talk on explaining a joke. I can imagine that'd be really annoying as a comedian, but my partner, so he will make jokes or tell me a joke that he's heard somewhere else, and I don't get it sometimes. Like, you know, some of us as autistic people do really still struggle with humour. And so I'll ask him to explain it, and he's like, no, because that'll just ruin it. I was like, it won't, because at the moment, I don't know that it's funny. Whereas if you explain it, it might still be funny to me, but he gets really frustrated that he has to explain his jokes.
You know, it's you've got to, like, I think we talked about neurotypicals, neurodivergence, and writing for both, and I write for me. And so I think the ebb and flow of my set, some people will get it, some people don't, some people. And so when I find myself doing comedy, I find that a lot of times people go in and out of my set of understanding because I touched on so many different kinds of things that, like, you got the magic joke, but you didn't get the Samoa joke. And most people won't get the magic joke because they don't play magic, right? And then, you know what I mean? The jock nerd joke. Everybody gets that because they've either been bullied or they've been the bully, right? So it's finding, for me, you've got to do your comedy for yourself. And there's a big difference between stage comedy and jokes. Like, you're talking about jokes where he's talking to you and telling you a joke versus stage comedy. Those are two different things. And I think that's the hardest part about being a comedian. And another one of the jobs I do is being a model is people, oh, you're a model? Well, I could be a model. And you're, okay, sure, whatever, fuck you. You're a comedian? Well, I'm fucking funny. Okay, again, fuck you again, right? Like, you're not that funny. I should be a comedian. Cool. Fuck you, right? Like, that's my so it's one of those where you just get used to how you want to do things, you know, and your partner telling you shitty jokes isn't the same as a career in comedy, right? And so, you know, he doesn't have to take the seriousness of who he's going to offend, how it works, who's it's not going to work for. You know, I did my joke about saying the N-word and the R-word, and it killed at Laughable, which is a whole disabled group of people watching I mean, it killed. Nobody was offended. Everybody sent me messages and was like, I thought that was going to be, my friend Audra was like, I didn't think I was going to like that joke because she heard me say it. Then she heard me perform it and she was like, it was fucking wonderful. You know what I mean? So, but I did that same joke on Capitol Hill, which is our white LGBTQ community. And for whatever reason, the kind of jokes I do are really butt heads with white alternative lifestyle people. And I think that's because they feel like they're minorities, which I guess they are, but they're not really minorities. You're still white, right? And so they have this white guilt when I say the N-word, right? And they're like, oh my God, did you just say N-word? Well, I can say it. You can't. So just listen to the joke, right? And then the same night I went down to Pike Place Market and went to a bar there, and there was, you know, half the place was minorities, and that joke killed again. So you've got to remember, if you're being a real comedian, and I'm not insulting your partner, if he wants to do shitty jokes, I'm not saying you can't do shitty jokes, but when you're a real comedian, right, you've got to commit to either yourself or the crowd. And if you commit to doing jokes for the crowd, you're going to end up hating yourself, because some crowds are going to like you and some crowds aren't. And if you're committed, a little black cat, that was perfect timing. And if you're committed to yourself, right, then the idea that you've been heard and that you've been able to perform will be enough when you do your jokes.
I like this idea of, like you say, about the authenticity. Like, you're just being authentic to yourself, because otherwise you're just going to be killing yourself trying to fit each of the audiences that you might be in front of, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's some of the issues that I've had, where I've seen, neurodivergent people, and they are trying to make something for a specific audience, and it really doesn't work a lot of the time. If they're, like, say, predominantly got neurodivergent people in front of them, we kind of just feel mocked by somebody we know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, no, that's, so when I see, fuck it, I'll say their name. I don't fucking care. Fuck them. There's a comedian out here named Barunji. He's an African dude. And I feel like he's a fucking sellout because he makes fun of being African all the time. And you should be proud of that. That shouldn't be a joke. These white people aren't laughing with you. They're laughing at you. And you can laugh at me on some of the jokes I do. That's fine. But if your whole set is self-deprecating and it's racial self-deprecating, you're not doing anybody a favor. So now as neurodivergent, you see this neurodivergent doing jokes for the NTs, and the NTs are laughing, and you're like, all you're doing is setting us back 7 weeks.
That's actually quite insightful, because I was trying to work out once when I was watching somebody why I was so uncomfortable, and it was just this inauthenticity, and it wasn't made. It was this, like, say, selling it to a particular audience, and it wasn't us. And we were the butt of the joke, as opposed to, what were you saying, like, not being you said it is we versus they, didn't you?
Yeah, it's we versus they. I think that's the best way of putting it. Because when you think about that lady gang joke, I am literally making fun of white women drinking at work. That is literally, there's no denying that, right? But it's we're drinking together. I'm going to pledge with you. So there's no problem. I have not had a single kickback from that joke ever.
Somebody also asked your opinion on humor as a coping mechanism.
Fuck, what do you... Pardon my fucking French. You can't tell I'm a broken fucking person? Yeah, I'm coping with comedy. Are you joking? Like, come on. Yeah, duh. Not like that, but fuck, how many comedians commit suicide? And especially the great ones. Do you not think this is a fucking coping mechanism? So I think, fuck, I'm about to cry talking about this shit. Fuck you guys. So the best thing I can tell you, and I'm going to cry telling this, a comedian did a joke about buying an urn. And I thought it was fucking hilarious. So I remembered I only think the joke's funny because my mom's dead. So yes, comedy is... I hate this. You made me cry.
I brought on emotion. Oh no.
Comedy definitely is a coping mechanism. I'm divorced. I don't get to see my kids. I'm fighting to build this brand and make all this money so one day I can get my kids back. This is definitely a coping mechanism for me. You know what I mean? Fuck, you guys get me to cry like once a fucking month. One of these damn. I hate doing fucking shows with NDs because I do a lot of masking and shit, and you fuckers break me down, and that's not cool. But yeah, yeah, that's all I can say. No more tears. Next question, please.
Okay. I'll tell that person off for you. Okay, well, let's get to busting the myths then. That autistic people have no sense of humor.
So here's the thing I would say about that. Autistic people have a logical sense of humor. I can't stand what's his name? Fucking Anchorman, Will Ferrell. I can't stand him. Napoleon Dynamite wasn't funny to me. You're making fun of the weird dude, right? Like, there's so many of these forms of comedy that I just don't get. Jesus. I need tissue and shit. You guys are jerks. But I feel like damn, I don't even remember the question. I'm just in my feelings now. What was the question again?
Autistic people have no sense of humor. And you don't get Will Ferrell. And I'm with you. I really struggle with those kinds of shows, like those kinds of films, and it's not my kind of funny.
Most autistic people I know enjoy what I do because it's authentic. They can understand it. They may not empathize with it, but they can understand that it's my story or my thing or my. And so I think for comedy, we either got to be learning something about the person saying it, or it's got to logically make sense. And if it doesn't hit both of those criteria, it's not funny. And so, like, I know my joke kills. It's a horrible fucking joke when I talked about the whole buying little girl panties things. And I go, this isn't To Catch a Predator. They don't like them new. They like them used. The autistic community has died at that joke before because they see the truth in what I'm saying. They don't see he's a pervert. No, they're like, well, he's got a point. I mean, that does make sense. You know what I mean? So I've had the autistic community laugh at jokes because of the logicalness of it, not because of what the normal person finds funny. And I think that's what makes my autism makes my writing better, because it's logically funny. And so I can have an argument with somebody and sit down and go, no, pardon my French, but no, bitch, this is why it's funny. Here's argument A, B, C, and D, compounded by evidence from other jokes that I've done elsewhere of C, D, E, and F. Therefore, I've come to a conclusion that this joke was fucking funny. Fuck you, right? I think that's my autism coming out, even explaining it that way. But
and somebody's this is a good point. So what and this is what I feel as well, that when I watch things like, you know, like Anchorman and stuff like that, it is cringy, and that's not a comfortable feeling. We don't like that feeling. We want funny, but we don't want to feel cringed funny. So James says we need a cringe, relate, laugh, react as well. I don't know if that's about something we've said or if that's just in general.
It's all right. But I think it was the whole idea that when I talked about new versus used is what he's talking about, because it is funny. That is funny, right? But there's a lot of truth in that. I missed a whole set of jokes because I didn't do everything. But there's one of my jokes I talk about. I'm tired of white people treating kids like pets because they're not the same thing, this, that, and the other, right? And he said the darker jokes, right? And so then I get to the punchline. I go, my kids are black. They don't sell them whole anyways. They only sell them in used parts. And people go, ooh, I didn't write the movie Get Out. Okay, there's a lot of truth to that, right? And so I've had black people think that joke is fucking hilarious. And I've had other people go, ooh, that's but there's a truth to that. It's the truth, the cringy truth that you're supposed to be laughing at. It's the fact that movies like Hostel are real, that you can go to Tajikistan and wake up missing a kidney, right? The little bit of truth in these jokes is what's supposed to make you laugh. I'm not the one stealing the kidneys or selling the body parts. You can't be mad at me. And I think that's where the autistic community can the autistic community is very good at laughing at those jokes. The neurotypical normies, they get in their feelings, and I think that's the idea of the social logical feelings thinking. I find a lot of autists are not really feelings thinkers. They're we get triggered. Don't get me wrong, but we're mostly logical. That logically made sense. I'm going to laugh at that. I don't care how it feels. Like James Norris said, it's a cringe laugh, but I'm going to laugh.
Well, because I did I was nearly finished, and then I'm hoping they're going to start again in the summer. But the Infinite Monkey Cage podcast. Okay, so it's like a science podcast, but they did a session on the science of laughter. But when I was listening, I was like, this is the science of neurotypical laughter, because they were talking about like that you are more likely to laugh and laughed harder and all that kind of stuff when there's other people, because it's a social thing. And I'm thinking, I crack myself up all the time, or I'll watch somebody I find really, really funny and I will laugh just as much as if somebody else is there. But according to them, you don't laugh as much when you're on your own watching comedy and stuff. And I'm like, you might not if you're a neurotypical person, but I'm enjoying this and it's funny, right? And
I may laugh more alone than I will in public with how shitty my laugh is. You know what I mean?
Like, oh no, everybody loves your laugh. Like somebody's already said, the laugh is great. The laugh is fantastic.
They say that now. They haven't had to listen to it for 45 minutes straight.
Maybe so. And I think I had this note as well, which was that I get accused of being funny all the time, but it's when I'm not trying to be funny. So it's like my natural misunderstanding things, or the way I'll say something is funny. But if I'm trying to tell a joke or something like that, I am not funny.
So SJW is not a joke. That really happened. SJW, when I talked about why are they mad about all these single Jewish women, I really had to Google what SJW was, and then I was, oh, well, why are you mad about that anyways? That seems like a good idea, doesn't it? But that's the truth. Is I think I think some of the hardest laughs I have are talking shit at my job and saying things that when I'm just saying them, and like that. The one of the best laughs. So I used to be a paraeducator, right? And the kid had Asperger's, and he was, and I know you guys aren't used to saying the difference. It's just how it is over here. And my apologies for that if I offend anybody. But the kid had Asperger's, and my thought on Asperger's has always been, when I see the difference, is that Asperger's really is kind of like just a blinder to social cues. And what I mean by that is, like, he just didn't. Sometimes we just say shit. Sometimes we just blurt shit out, right? And so the one kid was complaining about how he left his homework at home, and his dog had ate it up or whatever. And out of nowhere, the kid goes, "You don't even have a dog." And the room just fucking died. Because the kid never spoke, right? And it was just like out of nowhere. He's like, "You don't even have a dog. You're lying." And we all just fucking broke out laughing because it was well-timed. You know what I mean? And I think those are the things, especially when we think about, comedy is really, a lot of people would tell you comedy is that left turn. And so being Asperger's, I think, and being autistic can be a benefit for somebody trying to do comedy, because it's the left turn or the unexpected that catches people off topic. Like when I say there's one reason why I don't like to teach high school, elementary school, or middle school. That joke has got me in more trouble than any other joke I've done. People, "You fuck your students." Well, they're adults, and no, I didn't. But if I did, they're over 18. I said I don't teach at the other schools. What the fuck are you mad at? You know what I mean? Like, what are you mad at? But it's that left turn that gets a shock and awe. And the best part is sometimes, whether it's right or wrong or it's a laugh, it's better to have a shock or awe or some sort of response than it is to have the dead silence.
And the tumbleweed.
Mm-hmm.
And I like I'm going to tell you this terrible joke, and I'm not doing it because I'm expecting you to laugh. I told this joke that I had heard watching Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams playing the robot or the AI, and he just tells a string of jokes one after the other because he doesn't understand joke telling, right? He just tells them literally one after the other and doesn't wait for the punchline to like fall for people. And I repeated one of the jokes that I quite liked to my friends Annette, Jessica, and Sai. So all my friends are autistic, right? And so I tell the joke, and I obviously don't give the punchline, but the logic of Jessica, she answered the joke, and her logic for the joke was funnier than the actual joke, and I was in stitches. So the terrible joke is, what is silent and smells of worms? When Robin Williams say again?
Dead bodies.
Okay, you go dark. Okay, so
I'm sorry. That's see. There's my Asperger's kicking in again. I want to answer the question. Dead bodies. Dead bodies.
Super dark, right? So when Robin Williams as Bicentennial Man tells that joke, that the punchline is, so what is silent and smells of worms? Bird farts, right? And I thought this was really quite funny. But I told the joke to my friends, and without giving the punchline, Jessica just replied, worms. Because logically, worms are silent and would smell of worms. And I was in stitches from her logic, right? I'm not expecting anyone to laugh, by the way.
She was probably pretty pissed off that you thought it was that funny. Yeah, I get it.
It was fantastic because it was the logic as well. And it just made it even more funny than the original joke. I loved it. It was fantastic.
I feel like Paul Kilmer's autistic and he does magic. And he has no idea of sarcasm. And so me and Paul have conversations, and they do. If you didn't know, you'd think we weren't friendly, but we are friendly. It's just we communicate different. They said they like the dead bodies version. We just communicate different, right? And so, like, Paul will be like, "Hi, how are you?" And I'll be like, "Really, Paul? That's how you're going to talk to me?" Paul will be like, "What do you mean?" I mean, I'm just fucking with you, buddy. How are you? You know what I mean? And just from the outside, he doesn't know when I'm being sarcastic. And then when he is joking, I usually don't catch it either because I'm so used to him not joking. And it's a fucked off conversation. I'll just put it to you that way.
That touches on my thing when I am trying to be funny and people don't get that I'm trying to be funny. For years, even before I knew I was autistic, I would say at the end, I'm so funny. So they knew. So kind of like Sheldon's Bazinga, right? So people knew that he's being funny or telling a joke or making a prank or something. So yeah, having to make people aware that I'm being funny. But at least yours is a bit more obvious that you're trying to be funny.
Sometimes. Sometimes, not all the time.
Have you ever thought about something that I found really interesting, which is the beauty of autistic people finding things funny after like weeks, months, or years? Like if you find it funny at one point, you'll still find it funny, if not more so later. Is that,
I've found that we like on our group from our podcast, we're all autistic for the most part. Most of us are. And we have a hell of a laugh when we recall things. Like when we talk shit about what happened on a previous show or what we're going through, it really tickles our fancy. And to me, I think it's like, I think I talked about on our show, like when we do Autastic artists, the first half of the show is usually really dark because people are complaining about life before autism. And then once you become autistic, you find this group of people that you fit in with. And I'll reference what I said earlier. I feel like autism is like Crohn's disease. And for those who have Crohn's disease, you know that you could have the shits, you could have the runs, you could have pain, you could not eat stuff, you could have bleeding. There's a ton of shit you could have. But either way, quote unquote, not to laugh, it's a pain in the ass. Right? But autism, same thing, right? We're all weird. We're not all weird in the same way. We're not all triggered in the same way, but we all have our triggers. We all have our inconsistencies, and we're not normal. And so we all know whether or not we're the same, we're very similar. And I think it's that network or that camaraderie that when you find people. And then I talked about this. There's also the bad groups of people. And I only bring this up because I hate the pity parties. I can't do pity parties. And what I mean by that is, and I almost corrected somebody. So I met somebody at one of the mics I did the other night, and he was talking about how he was a para, and one of the kids always, first thing he says is, I'm autistic, and that shouldn't be a barrier, and you got to stop using that as an excuse, and you're so much more than that. And I was so close to telling him, don't ever fucking talk to that kid like that. But I don't know their relationship. So maybe he's earned the right to say that, right? But for the most part, there is that gray area of, are you a negative Nancy, and is autism your crutch, or is autism part of just who you are? And I want to empower more people to not feel like that should be a crutch. It's just part of who you are. And you're only telling people you're autistic not so you can get their special treatment or anything like that, but so you can get their understanding on why when you may do something may not hit well with them or may not make sense. Well, I am autistic. I am Asperger's. I do things weirdly. Something doesn't need to make sense. Ask me why I'm doing it. I'll tell you. I've got a reason for doing everything. Trust me. I've thought about why I'm doing this. So there's definitely a reason, right? So it's one of those where just like that's how you've got to look at it. Depending on who you are, how do you want to take things? I've really tried to work on. Like I told you, I was mad. I still am mad about when people want to get into the vocabulary argument with somebody of what words they do or don't use. And Rachel Dunbar's joke of people want to say I'm a person with autism. Well, I'm sorry, you're not a shitty person. You're a person with shit, right? Like, come on. You don't, like, however you want to say it. Let's not have this word argument to be funnier or to be right. Or you don't want to hear my message because I said handicap, but everything in my message was right. I just used one wrong word. So now you're totally negating whatever I said.
And I think, like you said, there's so many things caught up in that as well, like why the narratives are, like you say, the narrative is very different or quite different in America. I mean, we're still not necessarily a good place in the UK, but yeah, just different narratives, but maybe trying for the same goal.
Yeah.
Asher likes person with shit.
Shout out to Rachel Dunbar out of Boston, Massachusetts. That is her joke, her line. Not stealing it. I just like it.
And to be clear, that's literally probably the only time that I have ever sworn on Aucademy. And it's not me swearing. I'm just repeating somebody else.
Oh, I made you swear. Oh, yeah. I like this.
I don't know if you've got any other key things. I mean, somebody asked something that I think is quite interesting. So they said, I don't know if you would see it as hindering anyway, given what you just said. So they said, does being autistic help or hinder your process? But they gave some examples. So like pros, like creativity, pattern recognition, observation skills, hyperfocus.
Ooh, stop. Don't say anything else because I got to go there. So you brought up something that really pisses me off and really fucks with me as a comedian, as a person, and socially. I have a high level of pattern recognition. So I notice every time people interact with me, how they talk with me, their tone, their words. And so it does not help me at all in a lot of different ways because I notice the pattern of people being rude. I notice the pattern of people being sarcastic. And I stop talking to people without them knowing it because of this shit. And so in a lot of ways, socially, it probably does not help me, but maybe it does because I'm no longer dealing with people that are shitty. And even if they don't know they're being shitty, they are being shitty. They're always, hey, fat guy, what's up, chubby? I see your suit's kind of stretched. Motherfucker, I don't want to hear that every time I see you. Hi, how are you? How's your day?
Who are these people? Who would say that to somebody anyway?
Sorry. There's a ton. There's a ton. You think I'm joking, and I'm not. And so when you, I'm definitely not. So there's even like not even a comedian. There's a local buddy at a bar who like I was sitting there and he's like, you're getting thinner on top. And okay. And the girl, why would you say that to him? One of the girls sitting next to me was like, why would you say that? Well, if I don't tell him who is, why does anybody need to tell him that? I don't think he really cares. You know what I mean? And it was just like, exactly. You know what I mean? Like there's shitty people out there, and unfortunately my pattern recognition makes me notice those people. You're not gonna be able to treat me like shit or be passive aggressively negative to me without me really noticing. And so I don't think that's always good for me. Cause then my big black guy size comes out. Do you want to fucking fight? That's it's the next move. that's the next progression in my conflict resolution is we're gonna resolve this with fisticuffs.
That's actually quite interesting, because I think particularly non-autistic people will talk about and I'm with you with the whole, we need to be much more balanced when we're talking about being autistic, that there are challenges and strengths as an individual, and what we as an individual have as challenges and strengths, not as like this big homogenous mass of autistic people. And now I've gone off on a tangent in my head. Help, where did I go with that? Oh yeah, so usually when people are trying to do that really annoying thing of going from completely deficit narrative to then the also just as bad wholly positive narrative that we're like superheroes with superpowers, which is also not helpful to anybody, but they'll use that. They'll say, oh well, you know, autistic people, yeah, they've got these challenges, but at least they're great at pattern recognition. So I think that's quite interesting, like you say, that sometimes that pattern recognition can be detrimental or frustrating, or because I'm all about the patterns as well, and recognizing things in people.
Yeah.
Even just, yeah.
And it's I feel like autism gives you a like an expert level of people watching skills. And people are like, what is your autism? I'm like, well, I know what everybody's doing in this room right now. And they'll be like, what do you mean? You know, I know what everybody is doing in this room right now. I have to pay attention. I have to know where the exit's at. I have to know. And that's one of the first times I've talked about that piece. But if they knew how crazy it was in my mind, the bullshit radar comes in handy. Exactly. And I think I had this talk with, what was it? Rebecca Cavender. She does this, it was like James Norris said, pattern recognition made me paranoid before identifying autism as the Rex, and I would have to agree with that. And then it's also it socially, autism fucks with you because people are inconsistent, whether that's dating, business, I don't care, whatever part, people are inconsistent, and inconsistencies fuck with us. Like, you have a schedule, I have a pattern. I was so mad that I woke up late. Like, I was awake. I could have been home on time to first start late. I was the technical difficulties. We're black. We were going to run late. Y'all should have fucking known. Anyways, but that's I think where we're and then Victoria said the same thing. Observer, hypervigilant, right? Like there's so many different things. And I guess this was my answer to somebody who's I felt like autism meant that you use 15% of your brain instead of 12. And somebody said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, I feel like we all process faster. Now, that may not be the same things we're processing faster, but I think we're processing so many more things than just the neurotypical person that we don't deal with the social aspects of things, because that's just noise. The social aspect of most things is really noise.
Well, where's the, yeah, because there's the logic, it kind of falls apart. It's too superficial, I think, with that superficial sociality.
Yeah. And
because
so
autistic people, we're social,
yeah,
but we're logical.
Yeah.
With that sociality. Yeah.
And so I think that's where like the loss in translation is for us, is that if things aren't consistent, or if things, and then, you know, the idea that something, I feel like it's so empowering when people figure out that there's things that our disabilities help us with, but then it's also, there's too many people that I guess what's the word, fixate on it. Like I'm not this or I'm not that. Okay, we'll get around people that are okay with you being that way, right? Get around people who, you know what I mean? Just I don't know how to put it, like are understanding or empathetic or any of those different things.
Yeah, that's why all my friends are autistic. It's just easier. It's just easier. So much easier. I mean, yeah, that pattern recognition. I was just thinking, I after I'd only been dating Louis for a few months, and I remember looking at him, and he wasn't saying anything. I said, "Why are you thinking about cats?" And he's like, "What? How do you know I'm thinking about cats, you witch? Get out of my head." And it's just pattern recognition. It's just recognizing. And he says that to me quite a lot, you know, get out of my head, witch, because yeah, that pattern recognition can be useful. But I think that's important and quite interesting to talk about, actually. It makes you hypervigilant and things like people have mentioned. Okay. I think I've got through all my questions.
Well, we're done.
I think so. Does anyone who's here have any questions for Duante while we're still here?
Give him a minute or two.
But I am going to ask our key question that we ask all our guests, which we end on. It's a lovely one, hopefully. It is, what is your favourite stim?
I don't know if I have a stim.
You're a human being. All human beings stim.
I mean, I guess if you're not paying attention, how do you know you're stimming? I shake my legs sometimes. Smoke a lot of weed. That is my favorite stimming, is getting high. A lot of people would say, well, how's that stimming? Well, it calms me down. It gets me in. I don't know if I have a stim activity.
What about this one then? What is your favorite dinosaur?
You came back to our question. My favorite dinosaur is the Stegosaurus, man. It's just weird. It's like a plant-eating badass. Like you can't really eat a Stegosaurus. It's got plates on its back. It's got the whip tail. You know what I mean? Like it's cool. It's got armor. That or Ankylosaurus, the other one that's got the shorter one that's more just armor, like an armadillo with a clubbed. Yeah, I know a lot about dinosaurs. We'll stop. That's a
Asher
whole
agrees with choice though about your choice of dinosaur.
What'd you say?
Asher in the comment section thinks that yeah, your choice of dinosaur is a good one.
I see somebody asked, "What's did I learn any sign language for Deaf Comedy Jam?" So no, I hired an interpreter to do the interpretation. We also had cart captioning, which is where they take the words and then they throw them on the screen for you, right? And then I know a couple, like this is to clap, thank you, stop. Then I know the usuals, you know, the middle finger, the bird, as we like to call him, right? But outside of that, no, I didn't really. Damn it, James, you got me feeling bad. I should. You know, I got so much shit going on. When I finally make it and I'm not having to work a 9 to 5, then I'll take the time to learn ASL.
I mean, so we do this quite a lot, particularly when we had our Autism Arts Festival. So obviously, given the different sorts of productions that you're doing, is there a lot of like deaf clapping for the audience as instead of horrible sensory onslaught of being clapped at?
So I've only done Deaf Comedy Jam once. We're doing it again in October this year in Boise. I did it once before the pandemic, but it was the weirdest fucking thing. Because have you ever got 2 laughs for 1 joke? That's fucking weird. Because the hearing people would hear you and they'd laugh, and then the lady would translate it, and then they'd laugh, and then most deaf people have horrible fucking laughs. And so the one guy's laugh was ah, ah, ah. So after about the 3rd comedian, I went out there. I was like, "Who's the guy out here going ah, ah, ah?" And he raised his hand, and I was like, "I'm gonna need some more money. I've been hearing you all fucking show, dude. I've been." So it's just different. And then it was weird because We had like 50 people in there, and it was dead fucking quiet. And as a hearing person, you don't think about those things. And then I had went around to the local businesses, to the Columbia Theater, to give them a heads up that a whole bunch of deaf people were coming, and they didn't know what that meant. But by the end of the night, they all had a special story to tell me about how they interacted with the deaf customers, right? Because they come in and they got their piece of paper and they're ready to write, and so it was just. And then like when somebody lost their shit, because deaf people don't scream, they usually don't unless they know you. So they were trying to, and they were waving and trying to get my attention. I looked at them. They're like, "You're the guy." And I was, "Yeah, you're the guy. You're why we're here." And I was, "Yeah." They're just so it's and if you can't tell, it puts a smile on my face. But it's different. Even like doing autistic artists, dating with disabilities. Most of these shows have a niche group of people who are underrepresented and feel like they're not loved. And so when I'm able to do these things and feel that love from them, it makes everything worth it.
And like it definitely confuses. Like say we had 2 autistic performers. So one would class themselves as a stand-up comedian. The other one classes herself as a stand-up poet, and she's fantastic. And I can really see myself in her stories as well, which, like you say, that authenticity and then connecting to people. So one of those was the one that you can tell makes their performance is really not for the autistic audience. It's not. It just doesn't feel comfortable. Whereas the other, the stand-up poet, it's really authentic and it's fantastic. But the one who was used to doing like the neurotypical circuits felt really weird because we were an autistic audience and we don't clap. We do deaf clapping because it's too sensory overwhelming. And he felt really, uncomfortable because he was expecting that feedback and didn't get it. But yeah, it's kind of what we go with. Have you seen the comment in the comment section?
I've seen a couple of them. It's niche, not niche. Whatever. You say tomato, I say tomato. Fuck you, Damon. And then, yes, if you go to my YouTube, so I've got about 40 million hits on YouTube. I do this thing called cut videos. Some of you people may have seen them where they guess your educational level. They guess whether you're high or not or any of those things. I've been on a ton of them. And they call me the Black Seth Rogen. Yes, they do. I've heard that before. Yeah. Blogan, I'm Blogan. Whoa, we're trying.
And how do you feel about that? Because I did say this to Sai. I was like, because I love Seth Rogen and his laugh as well, and that's why I like your laugh. It's awesome.
That's cultural appropriation. I'm older. Fuck you.
Fair.
I'm 4 months older. That's cultural appropriation. I was here first.
So, insult, not an insult. Don't mind.
Don't give a shit. I really don't care. If more people, I haven't been using it enough to say that I'm Black Seth Rogen. I haven't really been taking advantage of some of these tractions and things I get. So it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing so many different things that if I really focused them all together, my star would rise a little faster. But I also like the fact that all these pots are cooking in their own place. You know what I mean? And so it's different. It's I'm starting to model, starting to get into some acting and modeling gigs. I'm doing stuff with the autistic community and doing more of this stuff and outreach, right? It's just different. A lot of people are so focused on the now instead of the process. And I'm very process oriented. And so I believe that all these things will help you one day. You just let them simmer.
When people ask me how Aucademy came about, I can't tell them. So at least you've got a process. I just wing it.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Just doing things that I enjoy, I think, as well, which is important. So Asher does say, so technically Seth Rogen sounds like you. So that's good.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you ever so much. And thank you, lovely, lovely people who are have attended Aucademy today. And now I need to remind myself what we've got next week. What have we got next week? Oh, next week. Okay, we have got the importance of interests for autistic people and their well-being. So about our dedicated interests. And this young person is fascinating. She's 18 and she's incredibly knowledgeable about Queen, stereoscopic photography, and Gorillaz the band. And so we had a fantastic discussion about how dedicated interests for us are so much more than just autistic special interests. So hopefully we'll see you all next week. Thank you, lovely, lovely people. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Toodles.